Hi, welcome. In this C++ programming class, we are going to learn about coding the loops in this installment. The main objectives of our chapter is they are as follows. We will be learning to code while, do while, and for loops to control the repetitive processing. So we will be learning while loop, do while loop, and for loops. We'll see what they are. Code We have to code the nested loops whenever they are needed. We will use the break and continue statements to jump out of the loop or to jump to the start of the loop. Now, the C++ code, given the C++ code for a program that uses any of the language element presented in this chapter, explain what each statement in application does. So the knowledge objectives are we need to be able to explain the difference between a binary operator and a unary operator and give an example of each of them. We should be explaining the difference between prefixing and postfixing an increment or decrement operator. We will be explaining what a compound assignment operator is and how you use one in an assignment statement. We will be listing the order of precedence for arithmetic operations and explain how you can change the order in which operations are performed. We'll describe the differences between while, do while, and for loops. We should be able to explain what an infinite loop is. That's a problem, but we have to explain. Describe the difference between the break statement and the continue statement. So these are the main objectives for this module. The arithmetic unary operators, this plus plus operator stands for increment. So if you write x plus plus, then this is equivalent to writing x equals x plus 1. So similarly, decrement is like x minus minus. So it is equivalent to writing x equals x minus 1. Each step, it will be decreased by 1. This is the positive sign and this is the negative sign. This is, I think, known to everyone. So here, if you have an increment operator, you are using integer. This is the integer. So let's say we initialize the value of I to be 1. Then when you do plus plus 1, that means after execution, I equals 2. A statement that uses decrement operator is something like this. So after execution, the value will be 9. Now the question is how to prefix an increment operator. So you have the initial value of x equals 0. Then if you do plus plus x, so after execution, x equals 15, result equals 15. Now if you want to postfix an increment operator, then you start with the same value. The result is this one. Then after execution, x equals 15, but the result is 14. That is the difference between prefix and postfix. So what is the real context? The increasing or decreasing a number by 1 is among the most common numerical operations. This can only be applied to variables, and applying this operation to numerical values will return an error. But the plus plus or minus minus can be applied both before and after the variable. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. The operators, the plus plus and minus minus can be placed either before or after a variable. Now, when the operator goes after the variable, this is called postfix form. If the operator goes before the variable, then it is called the prefix form. So to make it very clear, postfix means, let's say, variable x. So the postfix is x plus plus and prefix is plus plus x. Now, both these statements do the same thing, increase the counter, whatever it is, x in this case, this x, they both increase the x by 1. And for decrement, you use minus minus, so you decrease the variable by 1. So the question is, what is the difference? Is there any difference, first of all? Yes, there are difference. So both forms increase the variable by 1. That's the difference. The postfix form returns the original value of the variable before the increment or decrement. The prefix form returns the value after the decrement or increment. The difference can be seen if we are using the return value of the increment and decrement. So let's do some hands-on coding here to understand this. In order to do that, let's create a new project in Visual Studio. Let's create a C++ console application, go to next, and then we can do um, pre-post example, the name of the project, prefix postfix example. So let's create the project. Then we will start writing the code. So this is our program. Let's add using namespace std here, so that you don't need any std namespace before cout or cin. So now let's try some prefix stuff. So let's say we write int x equals 2. So then we can do plus plus x. Okay. So let's do cout plus plus, or we can simply do int result equals plus plus x. Then we can do cout result equals result and x equals this one. Let's run the program. So we are practicing the prefix. So what do you see? You see the result equals 3 and x equals 3, right? Now think of a situation. So this one is as per expectation. Now think of a situation where we want to do some prefix and postfix stuff. So here you see we are doing, so x is 2, x was 2 here, now x equals 3 here. Now we are incrementing is further, but we are applying prefix. So we want to see what is the value of plus plus x and what is the value of the actual variable after this one. So you can see that, we'll see that. And then in the next step, so we are expecting it to be 4 and whatever the value. And this one, we are expecting it to be x plus plus 4 plus plus x 5. And now we want to see what is the value of this one. So let's run the code. Here is the situation. You can see in this step, the values are as follows. You can see uh, plus plus x again is 4 and x equals 4. So there is no difference. But if you do x plus plus, you are printing x, but after printing x, you are incrementing its value. So that's why when you do x plus plus, it becomes 4, the same value, because the increment does occur after you print it. Now, after that, you print the value of x and you see 5. So that's the difference between prefix and postfix operators. That's very cool, right? So you can reverse, how do you reverse the value of a number? You know, you can write x equals 14 and then you can do result equals minus x, and that way result becomes the reverse. Now, how do you perform an arithmetic operation of a character on a character? So you have the letter C. Now you do plus plus letter 1. So then it becomes letter D, because letter C corresponds to ASCII code 67. So when you increment it, it becomes ASCII code 68. So it becomes D. The compound assignment operators are even more interesting. So the addition, this means what? If you write x equals x plus 2, this is an arithmetic operation, right? So in this step, x is incremented by 2. But you can alternatively write it as follows: x plus equals 2. Both these statements will carry the same meaning. I mean, result wise, they are the same. But this is the way you can use compound operator. Now, same thing is available for subtraction. Let's say you write x equals x minus 2, and then alternatively you can write x minus equals 2. They have the same meaning. That goes up to multiplication, division, and modulus. Okay, so your C++ language allows the compound assignment operators. The code that uses the same variable on both sides of the assignment operator. So you can see here, in this case, this is the variable count. Let's say it's an integer. This count is increased by 1. Here, the same variable count is decreased by 1. Here, the total, another variable, it's a decimal or float variable. This is increased by 100, and this in this case total is decreased by 100. And then you have price equals price times zero point 0.8. That means price is multiplied by zero point 0.8. The rate equals rate by 12. That means rate is divided by 12. Remainder is, you know, remainder is set to the value that is left after dividing remainder by 7. Okay. And then sum equals sum plus next number. So that means sum is increased by the value of next number. So these are the, you know, this is the way you can increment or decrement or multiply, divide it, applying to the same variable. Okay. Now the code that uses compound operator is more readable, because you see here count equals plus count plus equals 1. That means count is increased by 1. And the same thing, I mean, you can see everywhere the same thing is happening just like this one, but it is much more simpler, much more compact, much more readable. The order of precedence for arithmetic operations are as follows: increment and decrement. Then you have the positive and negative, multiplication, division and modulus, addition and subtraction. The code that calculates a discounted price, so you have discount percent to be equals zero point 0.2. Okay. Then you have the price equals 100. Then using the default order of precedence, you can get price equals price times 1 minus discount percent, so that becomes, you know, 99.8, because you are getting the you are getting the discount percent is 0.2, so that's why you are getting, uh, I mean, you are just subtracting it by zero point 0.2. Now, using parentheses to specify, I mean, this is even interesting, because what you can do here, you are doing price equals price into 1 minus discount percent. So that means your price becomes 80% of the actual price. Okay. So you get kind of, your price is 100, then you have 1 minus discount percent, so it becomes 80, because you get here 20% discount, right? So your price becomes $80. That should be the right thing. This is not right. The code that calculates the current value of a money investment, you can see here, the current value is $5,000. The double variable monthly investment is $100. So then you have the yearly interest rate is 0.12. So then if you use the parentheses to specify the order of precedence, then you see current value plus monthly investment times, I mean, that is the formula, and you get it right. You can use the separate statement to control the order of precedence as well. You can do according to the order of precedence here. Okay. So first you, with the current value, you add the investment, then you calculate the monthly interest rate, which is yearly interest rate divided by 12. Then you monthly calculate the monthly interest. This is based on the current value. Then you increment the current value with the monthly interest. So this is much more granular. There are multiple steps, but you can accomplish the same thing if you use the parentheses. Let's do the loops right now. So while loops syntax is pretty simple. You have the while, and then you have the Boolean expression, and then you write the statement. That's how you configure a while statement. So when you use the while statement, because so long as this Boolean expression is correct, true, these statements will keep on executed. Okay. So basically, if while whatever Boolean expression you have, let's say while x less than 2, and then let us say you are incrementing x plus plus, and it starts with x equal to 0. So then how long it will run? So in the first step, it becomes 1. In the second step, it becomes 2. So in the second step, this will be invalid. So while loop, it will exit from the while loop naturally. So if you want to calculate the sum of the numbers 1 through 4, then you write I equals 1 and initial sum is 0. Then while I less than 5, because you are essentially trying to run the numbers 1 through 4, so you have while I less than 5, and then you are printing I, and then you are calculating the sum, and then you are incrementing it, and finally you will get this one. So basically what you are doing, let's write the code. So let's say we are doing the sum. We are using the same program. So our concept is int sum equals 0, and then int I equals 1. Then we do while I less than 5. That means I is equal to uh, 1 to 4. So then you can do cout I, and then Then you can do sum plus equals, note that we are using the compound operator I, and then you can say cout sum, or I mean you can do plus plus I, and then at the end you can print the sum, cout sum. So if you run this program, you can see that you have initially I equals 1, I equals 2, I equals 3, I equals 4. So it is running over this loop. So and the sum becomes 10 because what you have here, sum initially sum equals 0, at this at the end of the first stage sum equals 1, then it becomes 3, then it becomes 6, then it becomes 6 plus 4 equals 10. So that's how you are calculating the sum. Try to do it yourself to understand completely. I mean, maybe you may consider printing I and sum here together, then you will know exactly how it is incrementing. Let's say cout I equals I, sum equals sum. And then if you just run the program, you will see, you see here in the first step, I equals 1, sum equals 1 because sum starts with 0. Then I equals 2, sum equals 3 because 1 plus 2 equals 3. Then I equals 3, sum equals 6 because 3 plus 3 equals 6. And then I equals 4, sum becomes 6 plus 4 equals 10. Simple, right? The while loop, a while loop that does not use braces, that's a dangerous thing. Why? Because what happens if you do not use these braces here? Then what is going to happen, you know? This I will never be incremented because while loop followed by whatever statement, that will be the only part of the while loop. If you ignore the braces, then while sum plus equals 1. So sum will be incremented indefinitely. So it will be an infinite loop and sum will become sum plus 1 at the end of each step. The program will never complete. Let's see what happens. You see here, if I do like that, so you see it will never complete. See, it's running forever because it's an infinite loop. So that's a programming error. That's why it's a best practice to use the braces whenever you have a while loop. And if you do not use the braces, you have to be very careful what you are writing. So there can be another example, a while loop that continues as long as the user enters y. So um, it's like that. I mean, there is a character, you have the choice equals y. Now, while the choice remains y, then it enters the while loop. Then you are just outputting uh, what are you trying to write? Y or n? So now you are seeing, that means you are reading from the command from the keyboard what is the choice you are making. So if you write n, then the while loop will be terminated and you reach here. But if you write y, then it will keep on moving. Okay. So whenever you do the while loop, you have to be very careful about two things. Number one is the condition. I mean, your program should have a condition that requires a break. And then number two is, I mean, what number two is putting the braces. Otherwise, it will run indefinitely. You are running into the risk of infinite loops. So similarly, a while loop can be used to calculate the future value. I'm not explaining you in depth about this example. I'm leaving up to you. So this code, tell me how long it will run. It will run indefinitely because true is always true. So it will be always true and you will be jumping into the while loop. Now comes the do while loop. A do while loop is, you know, you write the do and then you start the iteration, and then while is basically validating if the condition Boolean expression is still valid. If it is valid, then you again continue with the do. If it is not valid, then you just break. So you can calculate the sum of numbers 1 through 4. So your syntax of the program would be like this. So you are doing exactly the same thing, incrementing, but the while happens at the very end. Okay. So a do while loop, again, I mean, you have to be very careful about using the braces. Just try it yourself and find out how this works. Similarly, for the future value calculation, you can use the same do while loop. The same example is also valid here. So let's not I mean go through this because you can find this code in the book, but you can always try it for by yourself. So we have completed up to while and do while loop for now. So in the next video we will be talking about the for loop. So let's specialize ourselves into the while and do while loop. Okay, so wait until the next video.